All right. Hey, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for what's today? Today is Wednesday. So a little bit of back and forth action today, and S&P really didn't move today, up about 15 basis points. Where it kind of looked interesting was in the Qs. Nasdaq kind of looked a little bit revealing here. One thing that I noticed was that, sorry, I'm just trying to organize something here. That very similar to Tuesday, I would say. Well, not exactly very similar, but if you remember last Tuesday, before this market volatility started, where we got this on Thursday of last week, we tried to go higher, if you remember last Tuesday, and we kind of failed. Kind of felt a little bit like that today with the Qs. One level that I would watch, again, these value areas are really crucial for finding support and resistance levels. I tweet these out every morning. So 144.57, it looked like we had a chance to go. This was right around midday. This is before the political headlines started for the most part for the day, and we looked like we were trying to go higher here, and we failed again. So we're not that far from the top of the value area for the week. So we could still do it tomorrow, but so far it's a fail on multiple time frames. So we'll have to be aware, conscious of that tomorrow. Small caps also kind of, revealing as well in here. They seem to can't really get away from away from that 200-day moving average, or out of their own way, I should say. So we started to go higher today. Small caps were neck and neck with Qs, and they gave it all back today. They look like at one point they might break down if you go to the 5 minute. But they actually held in there. So we finished a little bit off the lows, but again, not the best looking price action, I would say. I've talked about the last couple days, three problem areas, right? The one was the DAX. That is fine. HEWG did pretty well and reclaimed that 200-day moving average, which is this instrument is very close to the DAX. That's why I'm showing it. I could show it here as well, I guess. But if you look at the DAX, you'll see what I mean. So this was problem area number one last week. So this is fine. We held the 200-day moving average perfectly. Transports were the other area, and transports seem to also be doing pretty well. Kind of looks like a W right now on the 200-day moving average, a W pattern. We do have to get into the value area. This is resistance. Which is right around 170. So I would be cognizant of that resistance. That's could be a big area to kind of get back involved into. We saw a rejection today, and for instance, in AMD. AMD bounced on the 200-day moving average, but failed right at that resistance. And a pretty ugly day at that, considering that AMD was well over $13 earlier, finished down to 12.63. So I am long this name. I'll be long until unless it breaks the 200-day moving average. But a bummer of a day for that name. A couple other areas. So that is kind of what we saw in equities. But the story this morning was copper. Look at copper and look at the base metals: zinc, aluminum, excuse me, and copper. Just a huge day, and it didn't really give back too much of those gains. So really nice nice action. FCX, we saw calls. This is very typical when you see copper move like this. You're going to see calls in FCX, in SCCO. I'm already long FCX, so SCCO looks like it did get back to the highs here as well. Again, very typical to see these names fly up and to see call activity, which we saw in both of these names today. The FCX was repeat today. FCX was right off the bat one of the first trades that we saw of the day, but they continue to kind of add today to the sorry, just looking at L brands, which also just came back. But yeah, so they came in a couple times for copper. So yeah, I mean zinc kind of did the same thing. I don't have zinc in Thinkorswim, but also very strong as well. So there is an ETF for this. It's the base metals ETF. I put this out on Twitter earlier. Big gap up in this thing and up 3.7%. So while we see some like hesitation because of the political headlines, I mean, this kind of stuff is not bearish. To see base metals do this and copper do that, for as far as global, global growth goes, not bearish at all. So I was saying before at the end of the day in the trading room, hey, this little volatility in these headlines that we're getting is nothing compared to, going back to 2007, 2008, when the VIX was at like a 50. This stuff is like, minuscule right now. So it can be a little bit worrisome if you're an options trader and you're not putting your trades out long enough in maturity. You're going to have a lot of swings in P&L if you're dealing with like front month positions. So that's to be expected if you're doing that, and also if you don't really have a diversified portfolio, which we talked about that in the in the trading room as well today. So, you know, be on alert for that if you're an options traders, which I trade quite a bit of options. I also trade stock as well. So you just have to really be cognizant of how you're positioning yourself. Fold. This is a name I've been long for a while. In cash, a huge amount of calls traded in Fold today. This is a speculative biotech company. 7,000. They came in first with a block of 5,000 Fold January 15 calls. Then they followed it up with some more Januaries, and they followed it up with some October calls as well. So I'm long stock. I've been long stock for a long time. I think since March, either March or May, which is not that long ago, I guess. But I also I also bought some January 15 calls. So I own calls and I own options and stock in Fold. Really, most of the interesting signals were in the beginning of the day. Delta, which we saw calls in yesterday too, a different contract today, a little bit further up and out, September 22nd calls. Delta, which we've started to see, like I said, already went over the transports, but the airlines have been lagging in the transports group. Truckers started to kind of wake up. Rails started to wake up a couple days ago. NSC, which has been doing great since we put that option trade on, finished off the highs, but still up for the day. But some nice delta. So finally, we see some picking, some bullish paper coming into some of the airlines, which have just gotten smoked the last couple of weeks. I'd watch for this MACD crossover that's materializing in Delta. STZ, which is Constellation Brands, we saw some call buying in this. And then TXT, which we saw call buying right after they reported earnings. This name hasn't done much. But real nice play here. January is what the calls that they went after at least a couple weeks ago. It was in Textron, and today it was the September 50s. This had open interest to it, so I'll have to check the open interest report tomorrow to see if they added to this 12K of open interest. But it looked like these were swept. So I'd be surprised if they didn't add to the open interest tomorrow. But I will check that. Just to kind of go through a couple more names, Juno saw some calls, VWO, which is an emerging market ETF. Small order in it, but we don't normally see a lot of option activity in it, so I think it's kind of noteworthy. Applied Materials, which reports tomorrow, saw a whole bunch of calls. I will probably position long in this name tomorrow for earnings. Some silver, and then in the afternoon it was a lot of like protection stuff. It was a lot of either buying some VIX, rolling out some VIX, selling some VIX, selling some things. Some more gold. There was gold buying again. There was gold buying in the morning as well, but gold buying, GDX buying. So all very reactionary in my opinion, and not really forward. I like to see the gold and the gold miners being purchased like when we're in like calm markets, not when things start to get really, when these guys are just seem to be momentum buyers, or guys who are caught off guard, who are now buying protection. It's not really the flow that I like to really get involved in. And then the other thing that was notable today was a lot of the application names. Salesforce, which hasn't done much since earnings, started to break out here ahead of earnings. Same thing with names like Workday, moving up. Splunk, which we saw call activity, way back in here. And then it kind of broke down, but huge day for Splunk, up 4%, over 4%. There's another name, Red Hat, which I got long on Friday, 52-week high today. So there was some things that, I mean, Red Hat did not, there were some things that really didn't succumb to the volatility at all today. Not to say that there was much volatility. Again, the VIX finished down on the day, so kind of gave back. It tried to rally a bit today, as well as the yen, some of those safety trades, but they stalled out here. This was right around 230 today. Same thing, I think, with the 6J, the yen. This actually held its bid for the most part. GDX also closed very close to the highs as well. Gold finished on the highs of the day. I've said this a couple times now. I'll repeat it. I really don't care about gold until it gets out of its range. This is a lot of chop. So I'm waiting for it to get above 1300 for me to really get involved in gold. I am long gold miners and the yen as a portfolio protection, and those are doing okay right now. Gold GDX is back above that 200-day moving average again. It seems to like to fail here. Same thing with silver. Silver back up to the 200-day again. We'll see what it does here, but no trade I would say as of yet for silver. All right, so that's it. That's enough for today. A couple names that reported earnings after the close. Cisco got beat up. It looks like not so good earnings after the close today. L Brands is down. NetTap was up. I think it gave it back. And VIPS. So all bad, I would say. All ugly earnings after the close. But we'll see. We've got a bunch of names reporting tomorrow. Walmart reports tomorrow. We'll see how that goes, as well as BABA, which everybody is waiting on BABA. I will tell you my feel on BABA. I don't care if I'm wrong. I think it's a buy the rumor, sell the news. I had no play on in BABA here for earnings. Could it go higher here? Could it launch higher? Sure, anything is possible. But the pattern has been that there's been a lot of fizzle at earnings and after earnings. The only names that have really done that well are names that people are not expecting, I think. So we'll see. We'll see if the pattern continues. Maybe it changes for Alibaba, but again, it kind of feels like Nvidia, right? I mean, last earnings it was $115 stock. It's $160 right now. No way am I going to go long BABA for earnings after it's appreciated, what, 30, 40%? I mean, Nvidia last time, and I talked about this same thing. I put on no play for Nvidia, moved from $100 to 160, 60% gain, did nothing on earnings. That's what I would expect for BABA, but let's see if it changes. Let's see if they shock the world. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you in the trading room bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks.